Well, good afternoon, members, and welcome to the meeting of the Police, Fire and Rescue Subcommittee. Can I give a particular welcome to Chief Superintendent John Cairns, Divisional Commander for V Division, who is joining this meeting for the first time. I also like to welcome Superintendent Jim McMillan at the back. I've met Jim before, but his father was a former colleague of mine in Strathclyde, so they're following me. This meeting's been live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through the Council website. Can I remind members to follow good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when you're not addressing the meeting. For those attending virtually, who wish to contribute to any item, they should write "speak" in the Teams chat function, and you'll be invited to speak about new issues. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we can deal with the business efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including any votes will be undertaken by a roll call. And if any member has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to either leave the Teams chat function for the time period, and you could write "leave" on the Teams chat function. And then join when this is required, to allow us to record member presence. Please do not use the chat function for any contributions that are material to debates. We have a couple of important reports to consider today, and I anticipate that we'll deal with them in our usual efficient manner. Razor, could you provide the sediment and any apologies, please?
Thanks, Chair. So in addition to yourself, we've got Councillors Bell, Barretti, Dorward and Slater in the room. Online, we've got Councillors Howie and Stitt and Hill, I think, who's just joined. And members not present at the start of the meeting are Councillors Carruthers, Jimison and McFarlane.
Okay, thank you for that. I approve members' remote participation. Do members have any declaration of interest or statement of connection that we wish to make? Yep. You go to the meeting. They note the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of June 2023. I think this is just for noting. Yep. Members? Yep. Okay. I go to item 4. Police Scotland, Dumfries and Galloway Local Plan Performance Update, 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023. Chief Superintendent John Cairns is here to assist members if you have any question. John, is there anything you would like to add or highlight on the report?
Chair, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here for the first PFRC meeting. I think the report, I'll take it as read, and quite happy to take any questions from committee members. Thank you.
Open to members. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Chair. No, it's obviously pretty good news report, across the whole region here. Statistics are pretty good. Crime seems to be dropping across the region. The only question I'd like to ask is, you talk about on page 20, the total incidents. Obviously, are down 0.9 compared to the 5-year average. I know a number of people have still got concerns about reporting crime, using the 101. A lot of my constituents are not particularly happy with it. I feel, is this the reason why we're getting a sort of decrease in there?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. In terms of 101, I am aware of concerns that people in Dumfries and Galloway have. I would continue to say that 999 in an emergency 101 should be used. There are regular statistics published in terms of 101 answer times, and they fluctuate, seasonal variations and such like. There are other methods of contacting us through emails, through Contact Us, or also through local community policing teams. However, I would acknowledge that there will be some people who may disengage while they're waiting for responses and such like. Statistics are always there, and they're never entirely fallible at the end of the day. So I would acknowledge that there will be people who do disengage. There are statistics kept as well in terms of by your C3 division when people do disengage. So the figures are down. I welcome the fact that the number of incidents are down, but I am open-minded to your point, Councillor. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you for that. Councillor Barretti.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to you. I'm sure you'll be doing many of these over the next few years. There's one piece of information that's not there, and we keep hearing different voices, but how many active officers do we have, frontline and other duties? And another part of that question is, are we, if I'm not mistaken, likely to see an influx of new officers, trainees?
Thank you, Councillor. An influx, I wish it was an influx, but yes, there will be 12 officers joining us on Monday, which is, I really do welcome. They've completed their training at Tully Allen. In terms of budgeted establishment, I'm running slightly under budgeted establishment at the moment. I've had conversations with force executive members in relation to recruitment, retention and such like, and that dialogue is ongoing. Members will be aware that there is a pause on recruitment at the moment, which is being looked at the highest levels, given the financial position and the difficult decisions that Police Scotland and other agencies are having to make. In terms of numbers deployable, that can be influenced clearly by annual leave, court absences and such like, and officers who may be on some form of modified duties or recuperating from injury or whatever it happens to be. So the sum and substance is I have a budgeted establishment. I'm slightly below that at the moment. It does create demand and it creates capacity issues. However, the division's in a good place. I have a lot of people who are working really, really hard and delivering a high quality of service. We welcome the 12 new probationers, and I do continue to try and influence that recruitment and highlighting the specific needs of a remote rural division.
Thank you for that. Does that mean now that we might see some of the community police officers going back and discussing things with the communities? Most of the community councils that I go to welcomed the presence of a constable, and now some haven't seen any for a while, even though there may not be anything to report to community councils. They don't even get reports. Technically they're supposed to, or at least they would like to see reports, but quite often they don't get reports, even if it's just to say nothing happening.
Thank you. So the community policing officers will return to their ward areas and will begin having that dialogue with community councils and such like. We are facing a number of complex challenges in terms of the number of resources, with regards to the complexity of inquiries, firearms investigations which have to take place, which can be routine matters and such like. I've picked up that you're saying that some of the community councils are saying that they are not being given or afforded the opportunity to have an update of some kind, and I can certainly take that away and look at it. I think I also have to be realistic and state that given the demands and the need to prioritise, and I think most community council chairs are aware of this, that it won't always be possible to have a police officer there for various reasons. But I do know the point about the dialogue around about a report of some kind, and encouragingly, as I said at full council, I am sticking to that decision of community police officers will return. We will need to look at the impact in terms of demand management and such like, but I think that's a welcome development.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Superintendent, drugs deaths are very well reduced. Just excuse the scepticism of a retired cop myself. Has the reporting criteria changed in any way, or has it stayed the exact same? Or can you give an account for this significant drop in numbers?
Thank you for the question. It's a standard definition, which is Scotland-wide. I would guess it's probably the same for the UK, but certainly I'm confident Scotland-wide the definition remains the same. Closely looked at, and obviously it's statistically validated later on. However, conscious that the numbers are down significantly, which I welcome, but not losing sight of the fact that each and every number represents a human being and a family and the wider community. We have worked very, very closely with colleagues in NHS, D&G, the Alcohol and Drug Partnership, colleagues in the Scottish Prison Service and such like to take a holistic approach towards intervention and support. That includes naloxone. The vast majority of the frontline officers in V Division now are naloxone trained. So I think it's a good example, without being complacent, of collaborative working to ensure that we are all focusing in and doing everything that we possibly can to encourage desistance if possible, but also to provide support where, for instance, there has maybe been a near fatal overdose, to have that quick and as quick as possible intervention. And that's supported by all of the partners involved in this arena. Thanks.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Okay, I think in addition to that, I think you mentioned there are a delay in the toxicology reports coming back in, and that although the number are I think around 4 just now, that may very well rise considerably.
Chair, thank you. It's a good point. So toxicology will determine a confirmed drugs-related death, and that goes through a scientific and rigorous process. There will be numbers that are still to be examined and for toxicology reports to come back. But as the councillor quite rightly points out, it's a significant drop to 4. And as I say, I'm not minimising the fact that there are 4 people who have died, and there are others that investigations are ongoing. So that number will change, is likely to increase, but we are waiting on those toxicology reports. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. We've got Councillor Dorbert.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members, and thank you for the report. Chief Superintendent Cairns, a couple of things on page 19, if I may, specific questions initially, and Chair, if I may then ask a general question, if that's okay. So that's 3 questions, so apologies for that, but the first 2 are relatively straightforward. Antisocial behaviour incidents are down by 4.7, which is to be welcomed, yet I don't know if any other members get this. I've got quite a lot of constituents now complaining about an increase in antisocial behaviour incidents. So that's, is there a correlation there? Is there a connection? Perhaps they're not being reported. Difficult question to answer. And the next question was specific to the stats. Domestic abuse incidents are up by 10.3, but those resulting in a crime are down by 11.6. Is that due to potential underreporting or lack of willingness to report? That's the second question. And the third is a general point which I feel is incumbent on me or somebody to make in terms of policing. I was really impressed with the Best Local Policing Scrutiny Engagement session on the 27th of this month that some of us attended. It was really, really useful with ACC Steve Johnson. And the openness and the degree of candidness there was fantastic. But it raised a couple of concerns, and there's a couple of sort of challenging health checks for all of us I think we should consider. Our Chief Constable in post has already said that they asked for more money, I think 128 million. Dumfries and Galloway, we know this already has some of the lowest numbers of frontline policing in Scotland, and that isn't about you. It just is what it is. You're inheriting a situation that's quite challenging, so that isn't a criticism of Police Scotland. We now have on top of this, in terms of, we have the challenges of potentially a flatline budget or real cuts in budget cuts in real terms. We also had yesterday an announcement, or the day before, of voluntary early redundancy for civilian staff in Police Scotland. Now, I have concerns there in terms of jobs for civilian staff, and also this happened about 10 years ago, and what happened then was frontline police went in and did the jobs of civilian staff who were made redundant, or volunteered for redundancy, shall we say. So you perhaps can't answer this question now because it hasn't happened, but would it be possible at some point in time to bring back a report in terms of how this may affect Division V in Dumfries and Galloway? Because I have real concerns at the budget cuts going forward. Whilst you're attempting to maintain service provision as it is, and you've made a promise, or an undertaking, not a promise, that's not the right word, an undertaking to provide community policing, it's going to be very, very difficult going forward, I suspect. Thanks, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Hopefully I remember the 3 questions and managed to work my way through them all. So in terms of antisocial behaviour incidents and the anecdotes and the representations being made by members of the community to you, Number one, what I would say is the reported incidents we have here are down, and I welcome that. And I know that there will be concerns around about 101 and such like, and the earlier point that I made. The community officers in that return to community to policing will help us identify hotspots, trends, etc. And that's one of the real values of community officers in building that trust and confidence and getting that softer information, which won't always necessarily then result in a specific incident being created. So remain alive to that, remain alive to the fact of statistics and some of the gaps that demonstrates. But I'll close by welcoming the fact that the statistics are down. With regards to domestic abuse incidents, yes, they are up. So that's incidents that are reported into us, and thereafter the crime and whether or not a crime has been established. So when officers go, they're well trained, they're alive to the importance of domestic abuse and the need to have a compassionate, empathetic and caring approach. And they will go where the evidence takes us in relation to that. We may get third-party reports where people may overhear a matter but don't actually necessarily witness which is taking place. So the evidence may not be there of a crime having been committed, notwithstanding whether there's a sufficiency to ultimately charge someone. What I would provide committee members with is a reassurance that every domestic abuse incident is treated as a priority. We will be victim-centred, and if someone wishes to meet us away from a location or whatever that suits them, we will do that. But line managers, shift sergeants are intrusive on those incidents as well to make sure that they're satisfied that a crime hasn't taken place. But it is something I monitor closely, and the senior leadership team in V Division monitor closely as well, because that is very important. Domestic abuse incidents being up, we would always see that as an indicator of trust and confidence. And whether that comes through people themselves phoning in, third parties or statutory agencies phoning in, but absolutely alive to that disparity there, the 11.6, and it will remain under review. To your last point around about voluntary redundancy and voluntary early retirement, clearly matters that are looked at by the Force Executive in terms of the difficult decisions that are needing to be made and such like. I can commit to, I'll take away your request and your ask, and ultimately what that will look like for us. What I can say is, from the information that's been made available internally, the scheme itself and applications won't open until January of next year, so there will be a bit of a delay in relation to that. But more than happy to take that back once that landscape's a wee bit clearer and share that, if you're happy, Chair, through yourself.
Yep, certainly. I was certainly concerned about the same thing, about the voluntary redundancy. I think it's somewhere at the 8th of January to the 8th of February it's going to be open for those over 2 years' service. We have lost many in the past, and that may very well end up with affecting operational demands. But it's certainly one we'll keep an eye on. We've got Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to thank John for his recent invitation to look around the police station and see what progress they're actually making on the way ahead in technology and that. It was good to see that body cams will probably be used by our local police in time. And also another point was looking at ways of cutting down officers' time in court. Sometimes they have to go several times, maybe in 2 weeks. And that was explained as well. And the fact that there's a national computer system, all right, John, they're looking at that as well. But you'll still keep your local your local computer system as well. Am I right saying that? There's one other point. A few years ago, I used to be involved in an organisation called Maker Bar Safer, and also Radio Link. At that time, we had monthly meetings with our local policemen, and most people knew their local town policemen, but that appears to be evaporating, I must admit, which is a little bit sad. I would like to see more people Because once they know the local policeman, they're more liable to give you information, speak to you on a daily basis, and your local policeman can pick up these points and look into them if necessary. So whether that can ever happen again, or it's all went to the cloud, you might say, is how things happen. But I think, if possible, that would be good maybe to try and bring some of that back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for attending the event at Lorburn Street. It was greatly appreciated, and I know that the officers took a lot of encouragement from a local elected member coming along and taking that interest. I'll deal with, I suppose, the first point around about officers attending Radio Link and such like. I'll take that away and have a discussion off table with the local community inspectors about that. We do have, especially in Dumfries Town Centre, a fairly active town centre policing team. So what I would propose there is to understand the concerns a wee bit further, if that's okay. I'll take that off table. In terms of the national computer system, so it's Core Operating Solutions, and it launched this week, in fact, in V Division. It will make a massive difference in terms of elimination of double keying. It will also make officers easier access to normal information, understanding who they're dealing with, making that assessment around about threat, risk and harm. And already roads policing colleagues are really enthused by the ability at roadside to raise crime reports and deal with matters more efficiently. So it's a truly national system. There are a lot of benefits that will come from it. And one of the main ones being the elimination of that continual manual data entry, which was a bit of a bugbear for everyone in relation to that. We do retain access to local systems, so it's not as if they've just been completely switched off, because ultimately they've got a lot of information that will influence the policing picture locally. So a really encouraging development. I'm really proud of the division, the way that it's embraced the new technology. No one likes change, but what a big difference it's actually going to make, and everyone has really stepped up around about that. So thanks for highlighting that. I don't think I know enough about the technology and the technicalities to go into it in too much detail, but what I do know is, as a local commander, less time spent inputting data into a system which is more intuitive and easy to use, and someone will be in touch in relation to the Radio Link and Town Centre officers.
It's regarding court time, John. Is that correct, that you're hoping to reduce the time officers have to spend there?
Yeah, so that again is a matter which is being looked at closely from the Chief Constable down in relation to our operating model, the way that we behave, our behaviours in terms of writing cases and making sure that only key witnesses are there. Court is one that we're working closely with COPFS, the fiscals locally, to try and minimise the abstraction. Now, we've got to learn from that in terms of the quality of report writing, and this new national system will help to allow fiscals to make an informed decision about who needs to attend court. But there is a lot of work on the go to increase frontline capacity, and court citations and unnecessary court citations is one that we're working on.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and good luck with that one. They've tried to reduce court time for many years now. I've got another two speakers. I've got Councillor Hill, as she's a first-time speaker. Councillor Hill, are you with us?
Yeah, hi, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I attended the Open Day at Stranraer. It was really informative, so it's good to have that extra chat there that we just had about that. It would be good if we could get as elected members, if there is an incident in our areas, not the main details, because I understand that, you know, we don't need those and we're not asking for those, but if there is a serious incident in our region, even if we could just have a wee email just to let us know that the community is safe, because we do sometimes get an influx of phone calls or an influx of emails when an incident occurs, you know, asking what's happened, and we don't want to be able to tell them what's happened. We don't want the full information, but we do want to be able to be aware of what's happened. that there has been an incident, but it is being dealt with and the community is safe. Because it's kind of a bit embarrassing if you don't know about something that's happened and then you're getting all these phone calls and you're a bit in the dark. So that would be my only ask, please. But apart from that, the police over in the West do a fantastic job. So thank you.
Would you like to respond, John?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, and thank you for attending the event in Stranraer and also for your kind words about the officers in the West. And clearly, as the divisional commander, that service and that commitment is replicated across the region. It noted, I think you and I have spoken about this before, and it is something that I do endeavour to have the community inspectors or the area commanders to share that information. May not always be possible real time. It depends on their availability and their confidence in dealing with elected members. But the point is noted, and it's something that I do have discussions with my senior leadership team about, and we will do our best in that space, but clearly as well with your own local relationships and to all the committee members, if you're needing any information, go through the community policing channels or myself, and happy to give what I possibly can on that. I do recognise the value of elected members in maintaining that trust and confidence and that feeling of public safety. So it's one that we will keep looking at, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I did raise this with you just a few weeks ago, exactly the same issue. So, does that satisfy you, Chrissy?
Yeah, thanks very much. That's great. Thanks.
Councillor Beretti.
Yeah, thank you again, Chair. It's just in response to something that Chief Superintendent mentioned, naloxone. John, this obviously has been in a while from project to roll out across Scotland, so it's nice to hear that we've got many officers who have now been trained. I'm just wondering, would it be useful at this point to start considering a graph or data based on what you have on page 22, where you've got your drug-related death, drug supply, but also number of cases where naloxone is used, because I know that naloxone can be used also for people who are suicidal, distress state, and I'm also going to predict vape misuse. Now, that's something which hasn't yet come to the fore, but from what I've been seeing in other statistics where e-vapes are being adulterated by drug users or drug dealers. Because when you have an officer who intervenes in that sort of scenario, are they trained to understand that the naloxone can be a first point contact use before paramedics get there?
Councillor, thanks. Happy to take that away and get some information on that. I was given a brief before I came along, and in the period under review, it states here that there's been 3 uses in the division, and all have had a positive response on the people who it was administered to. What I will do, though, is just to give committee that full assurance, is I'll speak to those who keep this data for me just to make sure it's robust and we're capturing every possible use.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I think that is something that going forward, we're probably going to see those figures rise, and why I would like to see some form of recording so that we can see that, because it is going to impact on some of our other services going forward. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Before I go to the recommendation, I was a bit concerned when I heard I think it was from the Scottish Ambulance Service, they were reporting that they have, I think there are 42 addresses in Dumfries and Galloway where it is virtually a no-go zone. Obviously that will put quite an impact on the police. They will not attend unless there's police presence. Have you had much experience of that recently, and how you're going to, can I ask how you're going to deal with it?
Thank you, Chair. For a fairly long time, there has been addresses which we will work with Scottish Ambulance Service to ensure the safety of staff. That's done on a risk assessment basis. Initially, the conversation will take place at C3, or Command and Control, and it's probably between both sets of controllers to look at the incident, to look at the people involved, to make that assessment, and wherever possible, we will have officers who will attend and support colleagues from Scottish Ambulance Service. I think, though, it's well out there in the public domain in terms of the demands on both the Scottish Ambulance Service and ourselves in terms of capacity. However, we always make assessments on high harm, threat, risk to ensure that number one priority to save life. So when assessments are made, when grades are given, calls where there's a threat to life will always be prioritised. But there has to be that informed conversation between both parties to agree on an approach and the best means possible to ensure everyone's safety. But it has been, I think I said previously, I've been in the police now for 29 and a half years, and it pretty much has always been, there are addresses that Scottish Ambulance Service will seek our support. We will also adopt a problem-solving approach where we do need to. So, for instance, how accurate is the data, and thereafter do we need to work with the Scottish Ambulance Service and possibly even householders to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible. But it's something that we do regularly look at as part of that wider demand piece.
Thank you for that. I don't think I've got David Slater. Is this you've got your hand up here? No.
Yeah.
Like you say, right. Okay.
One last question, John. Obviously, when you go to incidents, obviously there's situations where a lot of people can start gathering around, which I believe would put obviously pressure on probably 2 police officers. I don't know if it happens here so much, but it does happen when they're maybe trying to solve the situation or arrest somebody, and they're overwhelmed by maybe a small crowd of people. And that can be obviously, what I'm saying here is really that could be quite difficult. I assume that they'll have to ask for additional people to come and help, but I can see it from the policeman's point of view. It must be a little bit threatening, really. And I can understand why they're going to have carry tasers as well now, which I think this day and age they have to, I think. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. I'll make a few points, I think, around about that just very quickly. So we do have officers who are specially trained officers, taser trained, and we have a good spread across the region. That's to ensure not only their own safety but also public safety. Officers now work in an environment where they're highly accountable, they're highly scrutinised, and the vast majority of arrests now, I would imagine, are being filmed by people on mobile phones and such like, and they will be challenged on every action that they take. They perform in a highly professional and highly balanced manner in order to ensure public safety, the rights of an arrested person, and also their colleagues. We have a campaign, Your Safety Matters, where we will make sure our officers are supported after an event if they've been assaulted or if they've been threatened or whatever it happens to be. And we will also have what's known as victim impact statements, where officers can make clear to the court and to the Procurator Fiscal Service the impact on them, whether that be a physical attack or whether it be emotional, because I think as well sometimes people expect overly, and forgive the choice of this word, a macho culture in the police. People get frightened, officers get frightened, they're exposed to real danger, and they do need that chance to say their piece. In terms of being overwhelmed, I suppose I would maybe take, I would be a bit more cautious in terms of the use of that word. We do have officers, we have officers available from national departments and such like to ensure public safety. But it is a really, really challenging job, and I think, Chair, if you don't mind, just in closing, I would say that the officers do incredibly well. They are working in an incredibly difficult and challenging environment, and they continue to turn up and perform to a high standard. Thanks.
Could I just come back for a second? I have to say that body cams, certainly you should have them, because although people are filming it from outside, you've got a record right there and then, and I think that makes an awful difference when it has to go to court. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the only comment on that one is I'm glad there weren't so many mobile phones around when I was there. CCTV was a danger. Right, in that case, we'll go to recommendations. The recommendation, we were asked to scrutinise the performance for Dumfries and Galloway Police Scotland for the period 1st of April to 30th of September 2023, which we have done. Okay, thank you. Go to the next item, item 5, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, Dumfries and Galloway local plan performance update for the same period, 1st of April to 30th of September. Area Commander Andy Kenna is here to assist us. If members have any questions, Andy, is there anything you would like to add or highlight to the report?
Thanks very much, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased and delighted to post another positive report to the committee for this reporting period. Can I take this opportunity to thank all operational and support staff and the many partners who have made a significant contribution in keeping our community safe in Dumfries and Galloway. In addition to the covering and performance report, I want to give committee members an update from a national perspective. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Strategic Leadership Team recently agreed a package of change proposals for the service during the financial year 2023-24 that were endorsed by the board for implementation this September. The changes are part of a wider strategic service review programme that will identify how we need to change as a service to achieve outcomes set out in our strategic plan and our operational strategy, as well as resolving the financial challenges we face over the next 4 years. There are 3 work streams within the Strategic Service Review Programme, which are service delivery, asset management and corporate services. At the last meeting in June, I made the committee aware of some of these changes, such as the planned closure of our Hamilton West Service Delivery Area headquarters and the management of support staff vacancies. In relation to service delivery and operations, the Strategic Leadership Team have agreed to implement 3 significant changes this year. The first is the temporary withdrawal of 10 appliances, which 5 in the West Service Delivery Area. A reduction in the number of high-reach appliances deployed from 26 down to 16, and moving to a dual crewing for both fire and water rescue resources at Polmadie Fire Station in the City of Glasgow. Again, I must stress to the committee that these changes do not have a direct impact on the service delivery provision in Dumfries and Galloway. In addition to this, a review of corporate services is also underway. In July, the service outlined a tendering process to appoint a consultant to look at the opportunities for collaboration between the Fire Service and Police Scotland. This exercise has concluded and PricewaterhouseCoopers is a successful bidder. PricewaterhouseCoopers will now carry out work to produce an outline business case, identify potential options, considering issues such as reducing shared costs, greater environmental benefits, reduced estate footprint and service improved opportunities. It is expected that the business case would also include a proposed timeline and a delivery plan for any options put forward for consideration. This initial engagement will take around 16 to 18 weeks, starting from last month. Before any recommendations are developed, some of the services in scope include digital, finance, procurement, people and development, fleet, estates, training and development and learning. Any permanent changes to stations and appliances will only be made following full engagement and consultation with all stakeholders, which include our staff, communities, internal and external partners. On this subject, I informed the committee in June that the service was considering the future of Leadhills Community Fire Station, which is in South Lanarkshire Local Authority area. As part of a comprehensive consultation exercise, the service engaged with residents in the villages of Leadhills and Wanlockhead. In addition, we contacted directly almost 50 stakeholder partner organisations, including a number of statutory agencies. The decision reached is to close Leadhills Community Fire Station after careful consideration of a range of factors which included community safety, risk assessment, instant data, recruitment challenges, asset availability and best value. I had recently sent out communication about the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Board's decision to postpone the revision of the local fire and rescue plan given the current financial environment. The service doesn't feel at this point that I can ask you to consider local priorities for the area when we expect that more change will follow. In the meantime, I will complete a review of the current local fire and rescue plan and I will be able to share this report with you and the committee by the end of the year. Lastly, His Majesty's Fire Service Inspectorate has changed from local error inspections to a service delivery error inspection and are currently undertaking an inspection in the West Service Delivery Area. They have been in Dumfries and Galloway area throughout the full month of October, engaging with a variety of staffing groups and key partners, considering our performance against 4 key themes, which are prevention and protection, partnership, people and response. Once this report is available, I will also share this report with the committee. That's all, thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. I think last 2 months ago, Martin and I attended a 2-hour meeting with the Inspector over the scrutiny of the fire service. I think it's concerning when we heard the police report, and a lot of it is the lack of funding, and then it's into the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. I think we've got the opportunity to discuss it a bit further next week when I've got a motion coming to full council, so we'll hope to expand on it then. I've got Councillor Stitt.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a follow-up to ask Andy about the retained duty system. I did ask at the last meeting because the numbers for Dalbeattie were very low. I see there's a slight improvement, but I'm still a bit wary when he sees 2 of them in red and the final total in red. Is there any update, Andy, with any more members of staff coming on board?
Thanks for your question, Councillor. And Dalbeattie just now, I've got a breakdown of the establishment within each station. So in Dalbeattie just now, we work in a percentage, so it's 1,000% per station because of the contracts that is issued out to firefighters. So you've either got a 100% contract, which is 120 hours that firefighters have got to commit each week to serve their communities, or a 75% contract, which is 80 hours. So just now, Dalbeattie is sitting at 725%. They have got 9 members of staff just now that are in the unit. But I'm pleased to note that we've actually got 3 members of staff currently going through the process, Councillor, which will take, hopefully if they get through the process and they're successful, it will take that up to an establishment of 12. But I would have to, obviously, I don't know how that would impact on the percentage figures because I don't know if it's going to be a 100% or a 75% contract that they undertake. So there is good positive news there. It does take a wee bit of time for the recruitment to actually seep into, obviously, the station's figures, but we're making good progress across the board.
Does that answer your question, David?
Aye, that's good news, Andy. Thanks very much for the update.
Councillor Slater.
Yes, Andrew, at a previous meeting I asked about fire hydrants being more visible. At one time they were all painted, but I was told they don't paint them because the paint gets on people's shoes. But I think some places they are painted. It stops people actually hopefully stop people parking in them. But nowadays some of the signs are missing, and also they're virtually just like brown rust on the top of them now. So I feel, and I think other people feel as well, it looked better when they were painted. It showed exactly where they were, and you can get paint now that will dry in minutes rather than stick on people's feet. So it's just an observation. Another point was about a colleague asked about pressure at hydrants and if they were checked regularly, because sometimes in the town you can see us have used a pressure washer, the pressure just suddenly falls away because obviously a lot more people at a certain time. That's something that's probably beyond your control, I must admit, but that can happen. I assume it will happen at hydrants as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. When it comes to the hydrants itself, so we've got an inspection programme in place for the whole time station here in Dumfries. It's the watches that actually they undertake servicing of the inspection of the fire hydrants. So if they identify that there's a missing lid, or the lid requires painting, or there's a marker missing, they will obviously raise an order for that to get repaired, and we work closely with Scottish Water. For our on-call stations, which is predominantly throughout Dumfries and Galloway, we've actually got support staff that undertake those hydrant routes. And again, it's a cycle that they undertake to make sure that the hydrants are sufficient. And again, we report any defects back into Scottish Water, obviously if there is any defects found. In relation to the pressure itself within the hydrants, that's something really for Scottish Water. if the pressure is poor, when we do attend an incident and we very quickly identify that the pressure needs increased, we then ask for the attendance of Scottish Water to increase the pressure. But there certainly is a maintenance and inspection programme in place for all hydrants within the area, Councillor.
So is there any way that they could be painted now to be more visible? And I say paint will dry very quickly nowadays.
I can get back to you on. I've never heard that they don't get painted. Again, they get painted for that visibility and to make sure that the markers are there. What I will also say as well is, within our VMDS system on the appliance, we can very, very quickly identify where the hydrants is. There's an overlay in the maps. So very quickly we can identify them, but obviously if it's an issue for the residents, I can take that up and I can get back to you with that.
I think it's important because if you don't know where they're, I mean, there's a supermarket car park, there's all painted, I must admit, that's a car park.
Right, Dave, I think your point has been well and truly made.
Okay, that's fine. Just that you will look at that. That's great, sir.
We can go to Councillor Bell.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Chair. Andy, obviously you gave us a bit of an overview of how the fire service is working and the changes coming across to Dumfries and Galloway. Obviously, the last time I raised about the deliberate fire settings in North West Dumfries and you, obviously, a few months later, we managed to get an email to say how many of the youths attending the, fire service prevention course. So I was quite interested to hear that none of these people are offended. Once again, the fires have started again in North West Dumfries. Last week again, the deliberate fires. The youths, I believe, one of our properties, I think Police Scotland involved. But the one thing that concerns me, you send them on these sort of courses and that, and they're youths, you can't do anything with them, and it's not your problem. A lot of landowners try and secure the properties like the convent. It was a very difficult job there for the Police Scotland trying to monitor it over the last year and yourselves. What I'm finding is with no deterrent, we really actually, some of my residents say we actually send them to Saudi Arabia for sentence, and that would probably save a lot of time for Police Scotland, but that's never going to happen. But going on to another subject here I want to ask was about false alarms. Obviously, is this based on head of population in Dumfries and Galloway? The false alarms. So, you mentioned about false alarms and reporting of false alarms and across this division here. Now, is it based on percentage and population, or how do you benchmark that against another local authority, say South Lanarkshire?
Councillor, is that a specific page number talking about UFAS? Is that sits under unwanted fire alarm signals?
Yeah, false alarm signals. I'm just on it in a minute here. Page, I had it here. Everyone was similar. It's not in the deliberate fires. It was in false alarm signals. Hold on, what page was it? Not many pages have turned over.
I think it will be in the report. Yeah, the report number rather than the page number, I think.
All right, page 24.
Page 11 of your report.
Page 11, yeah. When it comes to, I'd updated the committee at the last meeting, Councillor, just about the changes that we're implementing in relation to how we are going to respond to unwanted fire alarm signals. And as you can see, the vast majority of our calls in the region was unwanted fire alarm signals. So this is, we had implemented that in the 1st of July, so we've only had 3 months reporting of this. And you can see quite a significant improvement in a number of calls that were actually getting mobilised to these types of incidents. We don't benchmark it against other local authority areas. We certainly don't benchmark. No, we just monitor our performance as a local authority. But I think for us, with us reducing this, it frees up more time. It frees up more time for the firefighters to go and train, to do more community safety engagement work. It also, as well, there's less disturbance there to local employers who let the firefighters go away. So again, it reduces our carbon footprint. There's less road risk to firefighters as well. So this is for me, it's a welcome positive change, because In previous years, the figures were just increasing, but with this change in how we are responding to UFAS, we saw quite a dramatic impact and improvement over the piece.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Durward.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report and thank you for your update, AC Kenna. I'll leave the debate on resourcing. I share the Chair's concerns. I'll leave that to full council. I very much look forward to debating that at full council. Thank you for that. The question that, not specifically linked to the report, but an issue raised by constituents, it's about battery energy storage systems being introduced in across the whole of Scotland and in Dumfries and Galloway to help store excess electricity from our numerous wind farms that we have down here. It's a very positive step towards net zero, but a number of constituents have raised concerns regarding their perception that the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service are not statutory consultees in relation to BESS applications. You might not be able to answer this question now, I totally accept that, but grateful if you could confirm this and outline what role the service may have regarding this process. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. It's probably a question outside my areas of expertise. I can get back to the Council with that. I know and I'm aware of the planning applications will come in to our enforcement team and they'll make comment on the planning applications, but that's as far as I know, but I could get back to the Councillor with further detail if that's acceptable, Chair.
Yeah, if you could come back to all members on that, to all members of the subcommittee. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Barretti.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions, really. First is going back to what Councillor Stitt was discussing about the retained duty service. Now, if you look across that and you see the regions like Wards 1 and 2, they've got relatively high retained crews, and other wards don't have as high as that. Now, is this a reflection of the changing work practices within the communities, families, people, crew, or members who would have been crew members finding it much more difficult due to their work being able to participate? Now, that's the first question. The second question is, and I'll use the word lithium, that Andy is familiar with. Although on page 44 we don't have a category saying lithium fires, but I fully expect that that is something that either you're anticipating to go to at some point, and depending on the number of people who buy bikes of whatever description who have lithium batteries and poor storage and poor management of these bikes, are you likely to see and be called out to these fires, as you know that they are very difficult fires to deal with, and it would be interesting to see that category added to that list of incident types.
Thanks very much, Councillor. On the on-call retained duty system, I think what the committee is seeing here is, as we reported, our figures are up at over 86%, which is, when we benchmark that against Scotland's availability, it is a tremendous testament to our on-call staff. 86%, as I said earlier on, they provide 120 hours a week in a 100% contract, or 8 hours a week for a 75% contract. Just now we're sitting roughly around about 85% across the board. So there is obviously 15% there, but it's very, very difficult and challenging just now to try to recruit on-call staff. But we are going through certain pilots of initiatives to try to increase that. And I'm pleased to report I've got 15 firefighters or 15 potential firefighters on the pathway just now, to try to obviously raise that percentage up even more. I'm not seeing any specific reason or why people are retiring or why they're resigning. I did ask for a breakdown of figures this year in relation to that. And what we're seeing just now is we've saw 3 people retire We've saw 6 people resign, but at the same time, I've saw 17 new entrants coming in. So as much as you're seeing, obviously, staff leaving on-call fire service, we are seeing and attracting staff coming in. And as I said, with 15 additional staff coming in, or in the process of coming in, it's a lot of good work being undertaken in the area to try to obviously get up to that 100% establishment. Your second point in relation to lithium batteries, and we spoke about this before, Councillor, and what happens with new technologies is you then get new risks. So we are very much cited on the risks of lithium batteries, especially when you've got that thermal runaway and they're going to obviously a fire. We've amended our home fire safety visit. So the information that we provide with that is part of that home fire safety visit, and we try to encourage with that. But we're not seeing anything at all. We do obviously gather the data in relation to what is the cause of fires, and we're not seeing anything from a Scottish perspective that would indicate we're seeing a rise in lithium battery fires. But it's something that we're mindful of and we'll keep an eye on. How I report on this against the 7 agreed key performance indicators is probably a wee bit difficult, I feel. But certainly I can provide more information if you request it, Councillor.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just that I anticipate that with the marketing strategies of some of these companies, a lot of people are going to buy the worst type of bike, not just bike, but it's other devices that will be using batteries that have not been quality tested, they're not fit for purpose, and the people themselves will just not actually know how to deal with these batteries, and consequently we're going to see more of these going forward. But yeah, I'm sure you're keeping an eye on it, but it'd be interesting to see from our perspective as well.
Okay, thank you for that. This is not an invitation, it's just checking. Is this a legacy hand, Councillor Slater?
No. Would like to ask
you would like to ask a question. Yes, I hope it's not on electric vehicles.
No, it's not, no. Right, this is obviously changed it slightly. It's about house detectors and the new law on detectors where they've all got to be wired up together. Now, the fact is that's a cost that probably they might be able to afford one detector. Maybe a lot of houses have got maybe 1 or 2. But this one, they've all got to be connected together. And they can't afford to do that, so they still have maybe one. What's the situation if there is a fire regarding the house being badly damaged because of that, regarding insurance? Do they have to up their insurance, or do they have to have these devices all wired up at quite a large cost, and maybe they can't afford to do that?
Thanks, Councillor. I would probably, in the first instance, we carry out home fire safety visits. So anybody that's identified as high risk of fire, we would fit those detectors free of charge. So that would only be those people that are on their own homes, because local authority or housing associations or private landlords, the legislation is there, and they must meet that legislation. So this is only for homeowners. And as I said, if we do identify anybody that is high risk, we'll fit them free of charge. This is funding that we got from Scottish Government a year back to fit these detectors at a considerable cost as well. Where we go into these households, and if they're not identified as high risk, then again we can signpost them to the appropriate agency to maybe, if they could help to support any application of the fitting of the smoke detectors. I think for myself, when it comes to actual having a fire and do you have to have these installed, that would be a question for the insurance company itself to obviously provide that reassurance to the householder if they're covered, if they don't have the appropriate alarm system fitted. So, but we certainly will fit them if at a high risk of fire.
So when you write a report on a fire, and they only have one detector, that could probably affect their insurance. I know the insurance is not your forte as such, but what I'm saying, you write a report up, so they had maybe several detectors in the house. So the report would say the person's basically done their best as such. But if we've only one detector and the fire starts in another room, that could affect probably their insurance in any way at all. Thank you.
I don't know if it would have affected insurance because I don't know what type of insurance they would have. But what I can say is that we would report on is there adequate fire detection present in the property. And given the new legislation, if it's a standalone detector, then it wouldn't comply with the new legislation that's come out. So we would record that in our fire report.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Slayers, can I remind you when you bring something up, you ask a question, if you have a supplementary, if you come back through the chair so that I could kind of manage the meeting rather than go into a conversation.
Oh, sorry, I apologise.
Thank you for that. We'll now go to recommendations. I don't have another speaker. We're asked to scrutinise the performance report for Dumfries and Galloway Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for the period 1st April to 30th September, which we have done. Item 6, I have no other business deemed urgent, but before I close the meeting, I may ask those who can to remain in the chamber or to join the Teams link for those online that you have been sent so that you could receive a short presentation on police youth volunteers. It was hoped to have some of our volunteers present, but this has not been possible because of school commitments. I am, however, pleased to say that we hope to meet some of the police and fire volunteers either before or after our June 2024 meeting, when school pressure should be less. Thank you for your attendance, and I look forward to receiving the police volunteer presentation shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.